brief. First of all, after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, we received promises from NATO that it will not expand eastward towards Russia. These promises were not fulfilled. The West lied to us. There were 5 rounds of expansion of NATO towards the border of Russia, but the red line for us was for Ukraine becoming a member of NATO, because if NATO brings the military infrastructure to our borders, how can we not feel threatened by that? And of course, we all know that NATO is not a defensive alliance, it's not a peaceful alliance, it's very aggressive. If you look at what they did in Yugoslavia, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria and Afghanistan, I think it is very clear that NATO is a very aggressive military bloc. And of course, that was our primarily our security concern. On the other hand, after a bloody coup d'etat in Kiev, staged by the West and supported by the West, when they brought to power a very Russophobic government, they started to oppress everything Russian. And you should understand that to oppress Russian culture and language in Ukraine is a straight path to a civil war, because 40% of the population of Ukraine think of themselves as Russians. They speak Russian language, they are part of the Russian culture, they want to be able to speak their own language in everyday situation and even officially. And all Ukrainians can speak Russian, but as I said, a huge part of the population of Ukraine are ethnically Russian. So when the government of Kiev started to have this very Russophobic policies, of course, the region that were predominantly Russian were very much against. And these regions were Crimea, Lugansk, and Donetsk. So Crimea went back to Russia after a referendum, and we protected them. But Lugansk and Donetsk proclaimed their independence, and Kiev started to attack them militarily.
The view on the negotiation is that taking into account the actions of Russia in Ukraine, I would not see any chance for the negotiations to be successful, because while negotiating, Russia is keeping on killing civilians, shelling the cities, blocking Mariupol without water, without food, without any aid or any humanitarian assistance. So they're committing crimes against humanity the very moment the negotiations are underway. How can the murderer, like killing people, at the same time talking about peace? I mean, the one and only demand of Ukraine for these negotiations is stop fighting, stop killing people, stop bombing our cities, and then there would be a starting point for peace negotiations. I think it's very clear. You cannot fight and talk at the same time. And we did not start this war. It's Putin who attacked us. It's Russia who attacked us. We didn't commit any crimes against Russian people. We just defend our land. The war is in our land. And I think the one who started it should stop or take a pause if he wants in order to have negotiations, right?
Yeah, talking about G20, we know Indonesia has mandated as the G20 presidency in 2022. What are your hopes for Indonesia in responding to the Ukraine-Russia war to the big forum?
I hope that every nation, every democratic nation in the world now would stand up and strictly condemn the Russian aggression, condemn the fascist regime of Vladimir Putin, and impose as many sanctions impose as many sanctions and limitations to the Russian Federation, to the Russian aggressor, as possible. this is crucial to stop the war. I repeat, we don't ask for these sanctions for the sake of sanctions. It's not the sanctions that will make Russia, in order to humiliate Russia or something. It's the sanctions that can prevent Russia from producing more weapons, more ammunition, more missiles that next day will come to Ukraine and kill the civilians. That's what about sanctions. That's why G20 is the very authoritative and powerful gathering, powerful platform of international economic and political leaders of the world, is having all the powers to speed up the end of this aggression. I would not even call it a war. It's aggression or invasion or something like this.